rest and we sit and we do things, we walk around, it'll go and do what it needs to do to maintain whatever body style your body should be in to do that activity. Every time you eat carbohydrates though, I want you to notice the insulin level starts to rise. How high it rises depends on what you eat and in what quantities. So we talk about glycemic load. Glycemic load refers to the ability of the food that you're eating to cause this to happen. And so what we want to do is not ever let it do this. If it goes above your high limit, what that does is that insulin level will signal your body to start storing any of those carbohydrates that you just ate as fat. It'll use what it needs to use right now. The rest of it's all going to the fat storage department. Okay? So we don't want this. We want to try to stay underneath the high limit. But we also don't want to go below the low limit. If you go below the low limit and stay there too long, what it ends up doing is resetting this guy to another level so that it thinks the new level is where it wants to be, so that that's the regular insulin level. Enter the Atkins diet, South Beach diet. Those are extremely low carb diets. They work awesome for burning fat because what happens is your insulin level stays so low, all you're releasing is glucagon and you will release fat like nobody's business. I did it one time on the 0 level Atkins for 3 weeks. I lost all the fat in my back, all the fat in my side. I had no love handles 3 weeks. I was like, this is awesome. And I got done with that thing, and I went right back to the way I was eating, and in 2 weeks it was all back. It came back faster than I lost it. And I thought, how the heck's that happen? Well, because you reset that high and low level so that any carbs you eat, your body freaks, the insulin level spikes through the roof, and it goes way up here. And so for a very long time after you eat, you're storing. And it comes right back. Your body will remember where to store all that stuff. So the idea is to try to be even Steven. Keep it between high and low every time you eat. So paleo, what am I going to eat? Rule of thumb, palm, meat, lean protein, all right? 2 to 3 times that in veggies, because this is where the bulk comes in. Remember, your body can measure both macronutrients, density, and amount. It knows you're full by the density and the amount. Okay, so when we eat in like 5 minutes, because the kids have got to go to this, you got to do this, and you chomp down your food in 5 minutes, you swallow all that food, your body doesn't have time to realize you just ate a full meal, and your stomach has expanded to the point where it should be full, and the brain never gets that signal. Or it gets it 10 minutes after that, and so what do? You keep eating until I feel the full signal. Well, if you eat fast, you're going to overeat. So we want to make sure we're eating the right amounts, and we want to make sure we're eating in the right quantities and the right proportions. And so you go to your paleo stuff to see what's allowed to eat. We look at the zone to see what or how we're going to eat that. And the zone says we want 30% protein, 30% fat, and 40% carbs. This is not the Atkins diet. This is not the South Beach diet. Okay? 40% carbs is sufficient to provide ample carbohydrates for activities in which glycogen is needed. If you're eating the right types of foods, you're going to have plenty of creatine stored locally. Unless you're a power lifter, and that's all you do, you might need to take creatine supplements. But otherwise, this diet should provide all of the nutrients, both macro in these 3 things, and micro, like the vitamins, minerals, and all this other stuff that you need to do it. So what this percentages mean is percentage of calories each and every time you eat. So that snack with the cool bananas and the cocoa and the whatever it is, it's really cool because it's on the paleo diet, but if that's all you eat, all you ate is carbs in that meal, you didn't have any protein, there might be a little bit of fat in there depending on what you had. So guess what it does to your insulin level? Your insulin, your body sees all these carbs come in, and even though they're allowed on the list, your body doesn't know anything about the list. All it knows is that's a carbohydrate. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to start rising the insulin. So, depending on how much you eat of that, it's going to depend on how far above the line the insulin level goes for your high level. If you eat a sufficient quantity, guess where it's all going? Right back to where you're trying to lose it. And fat goes all over your body, gets stored equally everywhere. So the way to mitigate this is to make sure you're getting enough fat. Now, a lot of people used to say 30% fat. That's like a high number. It's not when you're eating the right fats. Okay? So the right fats, which ones are those? Go back and look at the paleo diet. Olive oil, avocados, nuts, seeds. Okay? This is where we get our fats. So you want to eat lean protein, so when you cut a steak, don't get the ribeye, get the strip, you know, or grill it so that all the fat basically burns out, right? You get a lot of the fat out of there. And then you add fat back in if you need to with avocados and cook with olive oil when you're frying, that kind of stuff, so that you get the right fats and in the right quantities. So going back to the rule of thumb, at mealtime, about the size of your palm is enough protein for each person. Since every person's hands about, kind of coordinates with their body size, that's the amount of protein. If you do 2 to 3 times that in veggies and have real fruit for dessert, that will put you pretty close. I mean, this isn't rocket science. If I'm an elite athlete, I need to be right on the money, and I need to have somebody develop me a meal plan that sticks pretty darn close, plus or minus 1% every time I eat. For the rest of us regular people that are just trying to get in good shape, we're trying to compete, but we're trying to do it in a reasonable way because we all have jobs, as long as you stay close, you're going to be good. That's why the rule of thumb works. But you got to do it every time you eat. So, what do we want to eat? This is not the food pyramid that you're going to see when you go to the U.S. food. What is it? USRDA. The USDA. This is not the USDA food pyramid. You won't see this on their pyramid. So, on the USDA pyramid, if you look at the bottom of the pyramid, it's grains. Okay, grains, whole grains. Oh, those are so much better. They're not. Grains convert a little bit. Whole grains convert a little bit slower than processed grains, but nevertheless, they convert directly to carbohydrate, which causes an insulin spike. So we want to stay away from them as much as possible. Okay. So on the bottom of our pyramid is meat, fish, eggs. If you're a vegetarian, you have to look and see what's allowed on the paleo. I'm not sure what proteins they allow for that. Okay, for sure you eat eggs. That's fine. Yeah. Usually, if you're an octin or whatever it's called, octo-vegetarian. So meat, fish, and eggs. There's your protein source. The next on the list is veggies. Lots and lots of veggies. Okay, the more veggies, the better, because you get micronutrients from the veggies. You get fiber from the. I don't know if anybody has had any issues this week with lack of fiber. You got to have a lot of veggies. And then you got fruit next, and then nuts and seeds. See any starches on there? No. Well, to know what vegetables you should eat, you go to here, because there are differences, right? So to know which vegetables, for example, regular potatoes.
What about red potatoes?
Huh?
What about red potatoes? It's not on there.
Yeah, it's a white potato.
Okay.
Look at the flat. I mean,
No, but you can
meat.
use turnips instead of potatoes.
So
Turnips.
white potatoes are mostly starch. Now, I'm not saying they don't have a place in the diet. They grow, right? But you got to remember, if you're trying to stick to this 30-30-40, about this much white potato, or maybe like an ice cream scoop of mashed potatoes, is going to give you almost all the carbs for that meal. So you got to choose wisely. White rice is out. Do you know that white rice converts to blood sugar faster than table sugar? Faster. There's one extra step to convert sucrose to glucose that your body doesn't have to do when it's converting the starch in white rice to glucose. White rice is the worst thing you can have in terms of what we call a vegetable. Okay? Even brown rice is a little better because it's got the little husky thing on it, but it still converts pretty fast to blood sugar. So very little starches, very little. I mean, if you got to cheat and you got to have some pasta or a piece of bread, just know you're blowing your carb load for that meal or that snack or whatever, unless you eat a very, very small quantity. So we have very little starches in our thing. It's like, think of it as like right up at the very top of the pyramid, right? About that much of starches, okay? After that, you don't see any sugars. So absolutely no sugar, no processed carbohydrates that are processed as sugar. So no candy, no gum, no sugar gum, no, even artificial sweeteners. They don't want that because they're poison for a lot of people, right? Aspartame is one of the worst artificial sweeteners.
One packet of stevia.
Stevia, right? And even that is still only in moderation because they're not sure exactly what that does to people. But for sure, there's a lot of people that are allergic to aspartame. Especially if you have a phenylketonuria condition, you can like go into shock. Yes, ma'am?
I said I'm one of them.
Oh, you are? Okay. So I know people that have complained and they say, oh no, the FDA says it. You know what? The FDA is staffed by people from industry that worked at the NutraSweet place or wherever they're staffed by the people that grow grains at, all the big cereal manufacturers in the Northwest, or the central U.S. Grain companies. So they're a little biased, which is why the USDA pyramid has grains on the bottom, right? Doctors, though, are starting to recognize that this pyramid, by and large, blows away the USDA pyramid. Okay, they're starting to see, because how do you explain somebody who's Kelly's shape and size having a heart attack because their lipid levels have stuck and they've got arteries that are clogged? I had a woman at my office, she's about my age, had a heart attack, thin as a rail, heart attack, clogged arteries. You know what she used to eat every day? Lean pockets. And things like lean pockets. Hardly any protein in them. Lots of carbs. I guess you could call it, it's not even really a vegetable because tomatoes are a fruit. That was it. That's what she ate for lunch, like every day, and I assume she ate the same at home, right? So, very little protein, probably some fat and not good fats, and lots of carbs. So what's happening, one of the things that Dr. Sears, the author of the Zone Diet, what he recognized is that when this occurs, not only do you store fat, his theory is that insulin, it's either the insulin or the response in your body to insulin that causes microabrasion at the cellular level. Microabrasion meaning, everybody do microdermabrasion, to scuff up your skin to help renew the skin cells. It's great for skin, it's not great for arteries. So if this is happening inside your arterial walls, think about a nice, healthy, clean artery, smooth as a button, just like a brand new pipe for your home water system. Water flows through it, well, your arteries, the blood flows through it. If you're clean and you're eating right, I don't care how many lipids you have in your blood, whether they're the bad ones, the LDLs, the HDLs, the mixture, it doesn't matter. Your body will know what to do with it if you're eating properly in the right ratios. As you eat more and more carbohydrates and cause chronic insulin levels to be high, you get microdermabrasion inside these cellular walls, and so they start to look like this. Okay, it's very much like what happens. If you're going to get there, right, sick and fit and healthy, all of this has to come from starting with what you eat. And so this is why it's so important, whether you're an athlete or not, to eat the right way. Because I can't really, if I'm not really healthy and I start to run and I do all this stuff, I may have a heart attack, right? I mean, that's why we start out slow. But if you're still eating the wrong stuff, I used to work at Semitech years ago. Bob Noyce was the CEO or one of the founders of Semitech. Guy ran every day. Had a heart attack at like 60 years old. I don't know what the reason was, and I looked at the guy and he looked like he was lean and fit. He could have just had a bad ticker. I suspect he probably wasn't eating the way we're supposed to eat. Does all this make sense? Do you have any questions so far? Yes, Stephen.
So the 30-30-40, according from what I read on the website, you're trying to X out carbs. So how do I have the 30-30-40?
Carbs are in your vegetables.
Right here.
So just getting from vegetables?
Yeah.
So this is where we get our fruits, our vegetables, and our carbohydrates as fruits and veggies. So if you eat, like I said, rule of thumb, protein this big, 2 to 3 times that in veggies, and then fruit for dessert, you're going to get the carbs that you need, but the right ones, right? For one thing, fruit isn't sugar, it's fructose. So it's a form of carbohydrate, but it actually releases into the bloodstream slower than, for example, white rice, brown rice, bread, pasta, all that stuff, right? The other thing that helps mitigate the release of insulin is fat and protein. That's the other thing, is when you're eating in these ratios, the insulin doesn't tend to spike. It'll start to rise, but if you're in the right ratios, it taps out before it gets to that peak because you got the right amount of fat. Fat is also a trigger for your brain for satiety. In other words, I feel full, right? This is kind of the reason why you go eat Chinese food. You eat lots and lots of veggies, bunch of white rice, some protein. You gorge out on it until you're full, and 2 hours later, it's like, what's the old saying? Man, I'm hungry again, I just ate. Because you spiked out your insulin on the white rice and the veggies, very little protein, not a ton of fat, and your body burned it all up, stored it away as fat, and now you got hungry again, right? Because you did that sugar thing. Because that's the other thing that happens. When your insulin spikes above its high point, the blood sugar is going up at the same time. The insulin spikes, the blood sugar goes back down, and now it's down here somewhere, and your body senses that blood sugar depletion and says, I gotta get more energy and more fuel. Yes, ma'am.
Snacks.
Snacks, 30, 30, 40.
Give some examples of quantity though.
Ratio.
Yeah, like give it snacks examples.
It depends on the body size, okay? For a woman, a 1 block or a 7 gram protein, 7 to 10 grams of protein for your body size.
What is that?
So you're gonna have to look on labels and stuff. Jerky's a great source for protein, for a snacky thing. An egg, if you like boiled eggs, boil up a bunch of eggs for the week and have those for a snack, right? 1 egg, maybe some avocado or a handful of cashews. Small handful. Cashews are pretty high in fat, right?
6.
So
6 cashews.
yeah, 6 cashews, 7 almonds.
Yeah, 6 cashews.
Honestly, but you know what? Again, hey, what I'm going to tell you is we're not trying to be elite athletes here. We're trying to be regular people.
Right.
So if you eat 10 or 15 cashews,
okay.
it's not going to kill you as long as you're keeping this number right. If you're keeping this number right, your body's going to know what to do with the fat. Just remember this. I want you to remember this for as long
So
as
you'd
you
say
live
maybe
from now.
you would say maybe cashews and a piece of fruit or a veggie. with
Like
it.
an
You need some more
apple,
protein than that.
apple jerky, cashews.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Walnuts and almonds.
Sure. Same.
Peanuts.
Just no peanuts. No peanuts. Because again, go back to the what I can eat. Right? Paleo says no peanuts. Okay. So many people are allergic to peanuts that they just said there must be something wrong.
They cut out all legumes.
All legumes, and I'm not exactly sure why I haven't read the book, but no legumes, all the beans. The beans are cheats, okay? So what I want you to remember for the rest of your life from here on out is fat does not cause fat. Fat does not cause. When you eat fat, your body doesn't store it as fat. Your body stores carbohydrates as fat through the production of insulin. Now, what fat does have is a lot of calories. So if you're eating all these calories from fat, and then you eat carbohydrates, your body's going to quickly recognize, I've got the caloric need all figured out for this meal. Oh crap, you just ate all these freaking pieces of pie and donuts with the fat. Guess what I'm doing with all those carbohydrate molecules you just put in there? They're all going to fat because my insulin level is above my line. So it's not that fat will store fat. If you eat too much of it, what will end up happening is your body, with the carbohydrate, says, I don't need to do anything with these carbs. I don't need energy from carbs right now. I got plenty of triglycerides flowing. Don't need any fat or carbohydrate energy. We're just going to store all that for later. So, key pieces. Always eat 30, 30, 40 for your snacks. Do not go more than an hour after you wake up without getting some nutrition into your body. Okay, whether it's a little whey protein for your workout, whether it's a handful of cashews, a small handful, although the nuts take time to dissolve in your stomach. I wouldn't eat nuts before a workout, especially if it's within an hour or two. So you want stuff that's easily digestible. A couple of bites of an egg. Some, mashed up strawberries, mashed up blueberries, something that's easy to eat and get down. Some whey protein is okay as supplementation for the workout, not as a meal skip, okay? But if you're getting up like we are at 3:30, 4:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning to come work out, you've been fasting all night long, don't come in here and not eat and then try to work out. You never want to wait longer than an hour after you awake to get nutrition in your body. Never go more than 5 hours without eating. You've got to plan this stuff. The reason is, insulin levels here, you haven't eaten, your blood sugar's going down, your insulin level's going down, your insulin goes down, and it tells your glucagon, hey, start releasing fat for energy because I haven't eaten and I'm getting tireder and tireder and tireder and my insulin levels deplete. 2 things happen. When you do eat, guess where the insulin's going? Right through the roof. The other thing that happens is your body says, this person's trying to starve me. I'm going to slow my metabolism down and I'm going to reduce the amount of fat that I release. So even though the glucagon signal is saying, release the fat, your starvation mechanism is saying, And guess who wins? Starvation mechanism is one of the strongest signals in your body. Okay, there's pleasure and there's starvation. Those are the 2 biggies, okay, in your body entirely. Everybody seeks pleasure, whether they want to admit it or not. Your body will not let you starve if it can help it. It will do everything in its power to prevent you from starving. And so, if you haven't eaten in 5 hours, the insulin level drops, the sugar levels drop, and your body thinks, I'm starving. I'm shutting this guy off because I need that fat for later when I'm really starving. Does that make sense? So never go more than 5 hours without eating. You want to break up your food into as many chunks throughout the day as possible. So rather than eating like a 10-block meal at dinner because you skipped lunch, you're trying to eat regularly throughout the day. So a normal diet would be 3 decent meals, 2 decent snacks. Even better would be 4 smaller meals and 2 smaller snacks. So you spread it out to where you're eating, 6 or 7 times a day. To just kind of constantly keep that blood sugar and insulin where it's supposed to be to fuel you, but not overload you. Thank you, Sarah.
There you go. Bye.
That's actually about it. If you have questions, I'm open. None?
So how do we know how many blocks we should?
So the whole block thing, that's a good question. So in the zone methodology, they tried to make it easy for people, and they said, all right, well, how do I know how much of this, what does that mean? What's this 30, 30, 40 mean? And so they tried to make it simple, and they said, all right, 1 block of protein equals 7 grams of protein. And they said, all right, 1 block of carbs equals 9 grams of protein, and 1 block of fat equals 1.5 grams of protein. And why they did this is so that they could even out all of the blocks in a meal. So I could tell you, you need to eat for your body size and your goals and your activity levels, you need to eat 2 block meals. Well, that means, I need 2 blocks of protein, 2 blocks of carbs, 2 blocks of fat. Keeps it easy, right? KISS principle, right? Keep it simple, silly. So that's why they came up with the block method. But in my mind, I still got to do the math, unless somebody's providing me meals that are already set up to be 3 block meals, right? 3 block meal means I've got 3 blocks of protein, 3 blocks of carbs, 3 blocks of fat. But absent that, if I'm in the kitchen and I want to figure out what I got to eat, I can't look at my steak and go, that's a 4-block steak. I got to do the math. So if I have to do the math anyway, right? I mean, do you see where I'm going with that? But there is. I put up a nice block calculator on our Facebook page. Are you part of the Facebook page yet?
Not yet.
Are you? Do you have
searching it out.
Facebook?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. If you search on CrossFit WCF on our Facebook page, I posted up a nice little block calculator. What you do is you enter your body weight and your body fat percentage, if you have any idea what it is. And it'll calculate for you what your daily block requirements are depending on your activity level. And it asks you, do you work out 1 time a week, 3 times a week, moderate, intense, and you put on all these factors and it spits out, you should eat this many 4-block meals or 3-block meals a day and this many 2-block snacks or whatever. It tells you kind of what you should do. And so from that you can figure out if I need to eat 2-block meals, that's going to be 14 grams of protein at every meal. It's going to be 18 grams of carbohydrates at every meal and 3 grams of fats at every meal. That's how the blocks work. They're trying to keep it easy for you so that you can just quickly go through the numbers and look at what I have to do to get that amount of 30, 30, 40. Mm-hmm. Make sense? And there was something I wanted to say and I forgot what it was on the block thing. Yeah, so it does kind of make it easy. So if I look at my steak, you got to remember too, ounces of steak does not equal protein, right? Ounces of steak, let's say I have, I'm just going to use a 16-ounce strip, New York strip. Only 40% of that is usable protein. The rest is water, fat. I mean, the blood, right, is a water product. So really, when you look at a piece of steak, now, a strip is better than a ribeye. A ribeye is probably only like 35% usable protein. So if I have a 16-ounce, every ounce equals 28 grams, right? So I would think 16 ounces, wow, 16 times 28, that's a lot of protein. It's not. You got to do like a 40% of that, and that's how much actual protein you're getting from a 16-ounce steak. Actually, that's a really large steak for what we're doing here. So really, think about 8 ounces, right, for you. An 8-ounce steak, probably a big chunk of chicken breast. Again, 40% usable protein from that, so you can figure out how many blocks that is. And then, like I said, load up with the veggies, some real fruit, and you're good. Right?
What if you double your protein?
On purpose? I mean,
Wow.
Just because it's that good.
or because you just want a big steak.
I
You
just
don't
want
even process so much protein. It's just that this is the dangerous one to overload on is the carbs.
Okay.
Right? So don't eat 2 apples. Careful with bananas. They are very sweet. Peaches have high fructose content. They're okay, moderation.
Like
right?
grapes.
Grapes, they're pretty sweet too, so moderation on those guys too. But like all the other berry type, I guess strawberries are a berry, so they're good, but all the berries, you can pretty much eat a good amount of those. You have to look on like, look at the nutrition label and see per amount how many grams of carbohydrates that is and kind of go accordingly. If you're gonna eat bananas, like half a banana is probably all you need. You don't need a whole banana. I mean, seriously, because it's that much sugar.
So is it better to get the smaller, like the little plantains? Is that better?
I don't know about plantains. Plantains are kind of a different breed, but they do. When you look at the bunches of bananas at the supermarket, sometimes they're the really long ones, and sometimes they have the small ones. Yeah, then that's probably fine. So the larger bananas, like I cut those guys in half. If I'm going to use that for my fruit. Because again, I'm about moderation. I don't want to cut out any fruit. There's micronutrients and all this stuff that we need. Otherwise, I don't believe God would have put it on the earth for us not to at least eat some of that. It's when we start going skewed to one side or the other that things go out of whack. And so that's kind of that. And again, as long as you stay close. Stay close. If you're eating some protein, you're eating some fat, and you're eating the right amount of carbs at every meal and every snack, this is going to work for you wondrously. I don't see how it can't. I don't see how it can't. But if you make that really cool banana chocolate, blah, 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 whatever it is, even though it's on paleo and that's all you eat for your snack, you're going to spike your insulin, and it's going to recognize that, and it's going to store a bunch of that away as fat, and you're going to go, well, I'm eating paleo, why the hell am I not losing any weight? Or why am I not losing any body fat? Okay? That's why. It's how you eat and what, okay? Last word, I mentioned it. Why am I not losing weight? Screw the scale. Screw the scale. We're not here for weight loss, we're here for body composition change, okay? There's a difference. You might lose weight as a result, but some people don't. Some people that come in here and start lifting weights, they have the propensity to build massive amounts of muscle, and they look on the scale and they're like, I've gained 5 pounds. What the hell?
Yeah, but muscle also weighs more than fat.
Muscle weighs a lot more than fat. Okay, so if you're building muscle at the same time you're burning fat, your weight may not actually go down. The muscle is going to outweigh the weight. But what you should see is a change in the way your clothes fit. I mean, we took measurements for the Lurong, so we should see that at the end of 60 days. We should see a difference in the way you should start noticing before that, though, in the way your pants fit, okay, or the way that shirt fits, or whatever. Okay? And I would suggest if you're really sticking to this paleo thing and doing this, I would say in 30 days you should notice something pretty significant in 30 days. Now there are exceptions. Some people have very stubborn metabolisms and they have to shock themselves into the metabolism change. Because like I said, your body notices starvation pretty sensitively for some people. And it will shut this guy down if it senses that. If that's the case, one of the best ways to kick it is to bump that up. The fat.
Extra bacon.
Extra bacon. Not talking about a whole pound of extra bacon,
Extra
but
slices.
a few extra slices. Because again, satiety is a huge deal, and it's tied to the starvation mechanism, right? So if you still feel a little hungry after that meal, your brain senses that. Don't go eat a whole other steak. Try incrementally bumping up the fat content of what you're eating. Another small handful of cashews, another piece of bacon, another whatever that's got the fats that we want. Half an avocado. Bump it up. Your body will say, I'm good. And what you ate was something that doesn't cause fat storage. Right? What you ate was something that, as long as this is right, bumping up the fat's not going to kill you. It's not going to totally thwart your efforts. But if you bump that up by eating another half a banana or another orange or another apple because you were still hungry, that's not the way to go. Okay? That's not the way to go. Make sense? Okay, that wraps it up.